I was really hesitant about coming on this evening, primarily because I'm exhausted. I'm so tired. My dad lives with me now, so I had to make sure that he was all taken care of and fed, and then make sure that my family had what they needed. And then I had to make sure that I completed my book work. Um, and then I had to make sure I got steps in, and then. Do you see how this is going? But anyway, and God took me over to Romans 12 and 2, which states, "Don't be conformed by the world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind." And a lot of times we are at a breaking point in our lives because we may be just overwhelmed and we may have so much on us. And that puts us into an area that we can really begin to leverage time in our lives. And I was just thinking about it. Like, it's just, what is it that I really want to give each and every one of you that can impact your life? You know what I mean? It's okay to get on here and inspire you and give you hope and motivate you, right? That's important. That's very important. But my main objective, like I told you before, is to help you understand why you think the way that you do, to help you understand, why do you repeat patterns in your life if you repeat them? Why do I think the way that I do? And how can I leverage my emotions so that they begin to work for me and not against me, to create the life that I deserve? Because believe it or not, it is my true intention to help you figure out why you think the way that you think, why you may be repeating the patterns that you do, how to leverage your emotions, and how to really walk in the calling that you have on your life. Why were you created? Because you were created to do good works. So my goal is to help you figure all of that out. And how do we do that? The first way we do that is by renewing our mind, by changing the way that we think. Because, it's a new thing going on in the world today. There's so much going on, but it's some great activity going on. And I choose to put my attention on the good things that God is doing in our lives versus the drama. Because I want you to understand that most people, thrive on negativity and drama. And sometimes when people cannot pull you in to their chaos, they get upset. I want you to know that sometimes when people cannot pull you into their mental illness, they get upset, because misery loves company. It does. And when you do not entertain drama, confusion, or allow people to just come and just dump their emotional baggage onto you, people get upset. But it's all about you. What do you want? Why do you think the way that you do? How can we change our patterns? And how can we leverage our emotions? Because the matrix is falling apart. And it's important for you to understand the very reason why God created you. God has given you a skill that He has downloaded on the inside of you. And the world system will distract you so much that you get caught up making a living and making everyone else's dreams come true while ignoring your dreams, while putting them on the back burner, putting them on hold. And I just want to give you a pep talk tonight, because I'm working on some things that I can offer you to help you with this. I love you and I love motivating you. I do. But my goal is to help you tap into your full potential and understand the very reason why you came down here. Because it's bigger than Your name is bigger than your occupation. It is a soul thing that God has buried so deep on the inside of you. He hid that so that the storms of life and the devil cannot pull the seed out of your heart. It's in there. And it's my goal to just help you activate that and figure out why you think the way that you do. Because I want you to know something, that a lot of times dark things happen because people constantly consume dark things. They consume dark things through the media, through their job, and whatever a man thinks the majority of the time, that man will become that, or that woman will become that. So if you're constantly putting dark things into your subconscious mind and into your heart, then what do you think is going to happen in the world, right? So the main objective would be to come outside of the world system. Because you're in this community, then that is confirmation enough that God has created you to come outside of the world system. There's no way whatsoever, and I want you to hear me tonight. It's no way whatsoever that you could be chosen by God and be in that world system. Be not of the world, but be transformed through what? The renewing of your mind. You got to figure out why you think the way that you do. And then once you figure out why you think the way that you do, it's important for me, to help you develop a skill to master your emotions, because that is your spiritual energy in motion. And it's my goal to help you leverage that into alignment with the Spirit of God to begin to crack the oil inside of your whole being so that you can begin to walk in why you were created in the first place. You're so much bigger than your occupation. I know, but it's something that you are here to do to change the lives of people around you. See, it's nothing like with me. I used to be just an emotional wreck. I never had control of my emotions, and it was because of my past, the things that I went through and my upbringing. I was just terrified, just emotional all the time. I just could not control them. I couldn't soothe myself. I didn't even know how to let God into my heart to do these things. But it took chaos breaking out in my life and me hitting rock bottom in my life in order for God to get me to sit down long enough so that he could pull me out away from everyone else and began to pull the layers of pain back so that we could get to the root of why I felt this pain. Why was I so emotional? Why could people just take my emotions and sling me around? Why was the devil using other people to control my happiness and all of that? If I was happy, if I was sad, if I was excited, why did the devil have so much? Why did he have so much control of my emotional well-being? And as I began to seek God, God took me on a journey. He really sincerely did, to begin to seek out therapists. I'm like, no, that's not it. It was a great book though, but that wasn't it. And then he led me to a conscious transformation group. And I remember going there. It was on Valentine's Day. I was by myself. I never go anywhere by myself. But when you are at a point to where you have been hurt so, like I lost my godmom. It was just so much that happened that year. And that was the best decision I ever made. I met my spiritual mentor there, and we began to do an intensive work. And here's the rub on it. I didn't care how much I had to pay. It took me a while to pay it, because the way our mind works, we want to come up with excuses, with so many excuses as to why we cannot invest in ourselves. And I never will forget that day. God told me this: how do you expect to ever receive a return on anything in your life if you are not willing to put a seed in the ground? How do you ever expect to break strongholds off of your life if you cannot make a financial sacrifice? And so I was afraid to do that because that's the way my mind was conditioned. But I made that sacrifice, And my life has been amazing ever since then. Because it is nothing like getting out of the matrix and allowing that system to control my thoughts, to control my emotions, to control my experiences. But when God pulls you out of that matrix, sometimes it takes a financial obligation, a financial seed that you have to sow in order to get access to resources. It's financial seeds we have to sow in order to have access to our homes. It's financial seeds that we have to sow in order to have access to cars. There's financial seeds that we have to sow in order to have access to food. There's financial seeds that we have to sow in order for us to have access to health care. It's financial seeds that we have to sow in order to have access. So why would I not bank on me? Why would I not invest in me being the absolute best version of who I was created to be? And when I started putting myself first and really taking myself seriously as a woman, and the thing about it is I didn't do it for anybody else. I couldn't care less. What I did is I did it for me. I did it for me because I wanted to figure myself out enough, because I knew that my life was bigger than just going to church and being in just the routine of church and the routine of shouting and the routine of going. Our routine sometimes can put us to sleep. I knew, because I continued to struggle with the same things. I had the same spiritual things. It didn't matter. I had to sit down with Shonda, okay? And I had to get serious about my life. I had to get serious about my life, and I was willing to make a sacrifice, even though my hands were shaking and I was very nervous to do it, because I'm like, oh, this could be a hoax, but I was willing to make that sacrifice. And I tell you, it wasn't expensive enough. What I gained is why I'm here today. It's why you know me today. And the reason why this community is where it's at, because I was willing to bank on myself and put seed in the ground in the vision that God has given me. You have to be willing to invest in yourself, to educate yourself on why you do the things you do, why you think the way you do, why your emotions control you, and why in the world was I created. Not because of what mama said, not because of what daddy said, not because of what the school teacher said, the church, the community, whatever the culture said. But what did God say? Why did God create me? God, why did I come down here? And can you help me center myself enough to where people don't control my well-being? Because when you allow people to control your emotions and your mind, the devil got you. You have to be almost desperate to be the best version of yourself. You have to long for that. You have to thirst for that. You have to want that. It's like God and then that. Because until you can be 100% all in with God and all in with you, you'll only go. So if you don't do that, you're going to always hit the ceiling. But when you can align yourself with God and really begin to develop yourself, baby, the sky is the limit on that. It most definitely is the limit on that. And it was something else that I wanted to say to you before I got up off of here. Oh, and I wanted to say this too. When it comes to relationships, I've been getting so many emails about people really wanting to attract, their spouse, a good relationship, an intimate relationship with a man or with a woman. When it comes to a relationship, it's even more important that you do the work on yourself. Because if you don't do the work, then 9 times out of 10, you're going to have the same experience. You know what God told me today? I was on a walk. That's why I'm looking crazy tonight. I have to wash my hair tomorrow because, baby. But I was on a walk today, and God told me to tell the women in this community this. And men, you can flip this, and you can apply it to yourself. Good people still exist. in this world. No matter how the devil tries to lie to us, because we're constantly bombarded with foolishness. God wanted me to tell you to rise above the darkness into a space where only Him and His elect angels from heaven reside, above the darkness. And He wanted me to remind you that good people do exist. There are good men out there. And I don't know who this is for. But God told me this tonight, that you don't have to worry about a man or a woman when you do the work on yourself. And God is going to bless you with your own husband and not somebody else's husband. I'm going to say that one more time. When you do the work on yourself, you don't have to worry about the man that God has for you, because He's a good man, because you're doing a good work in alignment with His will for your life. And you don't have to worry about trying to grab a hold or pray for somebody else's husband. God will give you your own husband. Because I'm going to tell you something. I don't want to share my husband with anybody. Do you understand what I'm saying? I don't want to ever be in a situation where my husband is not mature enough to hold space for me and work with me through issues without just telling everybody my business. And it's very important for me to know that. Why did I say that it's important for us as women and men of God to trust God, not with somebody else's husband, but our husband? Because a lot of times what happens is we enter into marriages in a state of brokenness and sinfulness. And a lot of times those marriages don't make it because that wasn't your spouse to begin with. God didn't choose that spouse for us. Sin chose that spouse for us. Lust chose that spouse for us. Financial advancement chose that spouse for us. Brokenness chose that spouse for us. And we wonder why it didn't last, because that was somebody else's spouse to begin with. That's a deep statement, but I want you to think about that, because when you choose somebody out of being lustful, when it's just so lustful, the marriage, in most cases, I can't speak for everybody, it don't make it, because lust was the god of that relationship. When you choose a marriage based on the lie, you choose a marriage taking somebody else's significant other, that will never make it. I don't want anybody else's husband, because I want you to understand that God has a husband for me, that He's single, He is mature, He's spiritual developed, He's been through some things, He knows exactly who He is as a man, and it ain't no thinking about if you want me or not, because it don't even come up in His mind. He knows who I am when He sees me. He knows I'm it. I don't have to compete with anybody, because my husband knows my voice. He knows my spirit, and He knows exactly who I am. I ain't thinking about nobody else's husband. Come on, somebody. Only the one that God chose for me, not the one that sin chose for me. Come on, come on. Not the one that brokenness chose for me. Not the one that lust chose for me, because that's not a marriage. That's a mess. That ain't no marriage, baby. That's a mess. Because a real marriage, God chooses that person. That person complements your life. That person knows who you are. That person is single, he's ready, and he's all yours. She's all yours. There's no competition at all. You're able to help heal each other in the will of God together. And that man loves you. He will not play like God don't play about you. He won't play about you. Like Christ loved the church, He will love you that way. Like Christ loved you, will love Him that way. You will be a soft place for Him to land, and He will be a place for you to be secure in being vulnerable. Because in most cases, the reason why men are not vulnerable is because we don't create a space for them to be vulnerable in. I'm not going to go into this tonight, but I want you to know this. It's going to be okay. God's going to bless you with your own husband. Not a counterfeit. Not somebody who can't make up, that you can't make up your mind. That ain't it. Not somebody that's somebody else's husband. And I gave you what somebody's husband is. When sin chooses your husband, when brokenness chooses your husband, God ain't choosing it. And that's why their relationship didn't make it. Because that was somebody else's husband in the beginning. But we want to put our hand in the middle and get the meddling. And we mess stuff up all the time. But it takes a strong woman or a strong man to admit a fault. And when we can come clean and we can admit to God our faults, when we can come clean and say, God, why do I think the way that I do? Why do I think negative at first? Why do I always buy into thoughts that ain't no good for me? God, why is it that I'm an emotional wreck? Lord, help me leverage my emotions at a place to where I can hear bad things, but I don't buy into them. I become the observer of my life like you have trained me, God, to do. I've become an observer. And because of that, I'm able to learn me enough to figure exactly out what you put on the inside of me and activate that, because I know the reason why you allowed me to come here to complete this work, to raise the level of frequency and spirituality and reconcile lost people back to you. But do that one thing that God has created me to do. And because of that, now you know that you don't have to worry about anything. It's already done. And you don't have to be over there scraping and scrapping for somebody else's husband. Come on, somebody. You can heal yourself through God. And he will present your husband to you that won't play about you. That man will protect you, come at you crazy if they want to. That man will protect you with his life because he knows exactly who you are. And the reason why he knows it is because he's been praying for you all this time. She's been praying for you all this time. I love you guys. I'm going to get on up off of here and go to sleep. Until the next video. Peace. And I still be believing in you. Thanks for talking with me tonight. Good night.